Um, okay, so welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you to close your eyes for a second.
Right. My eyes are closed.
Okay, so I want you to imagine the smell of salt water, maybe mixed with a little bit of coal smoke.
Oh, I can picture that.
Right. It is a gray, blustery day in the spring of 1915, and we are standing on the edge of the Irish Sea in a town called Glasstool.
Right next to Kingstown.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. What we know today as Dunlog Hair.
It's such a specific, evocative setting. I mean, you can almost feel the dampness in the air just reading the text.
You really can. And on the surface, everything in this town seems, well, it seems orderly.
Very orderly.
Yeah, you look around and you see shopkeepers polishing their windows, you see priests tipping their hats to ladies, you see these recruitment posters for the British Army plastered on the walls because...
Because the Great War is raging over in Europe.
Right, WWI is happening. And so it
Yeah.
feels like a very rigid, respectable, everything in its place kind of world.
But that's the trick, isn't it? Because just beneath that veneer of Victorian respectability, the whole foundation is cracking.
It's totally crumbling.
You have this rising tide of socialism. You have a new, more aggressive brand of nationalism bubbling up. And right in the center of this geopolitical storm, you have a secret forbidden friendship between two young boys.
Yes. So today we are doing a deep dive into part one of the novel At Swim, Two Boys by Jamie O'Neill.
A phenomenal book.
It really is. Now, for those of you who haven't read it, this is often called an Irish masterpiece. It's dense, it's lyrical, it's funny, and it is just heartbreaking.
It's a book that demands a lot from the reader, but it gives back tenfold. It's written in a style that pays homage to James Joyce.
Right, specifically Ulysses,
and Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. But it has this very tender, very human heart beating in the middle of all that stylistic complexity.
So our mission today is to explore how individual lives get caught in the massive gears of history.
I love that framing.
Thanks. We're looking at the clash between the old order, so that loyalty to the king, the church, keeping up appearances, and the new Ireland.
Socialism, the Gaelic revival, personal freedom.
Exactly. But we aren't just doing a history lesson here.
No, because history is just dates until you see how it affects a person's breakfast or their relationship with their dad.
Right.
We're going to see how these massive political shifts actually feel when you're a 16-year-old boy trying to figure out who you are, or a middle-aged father terrified of losing his status.
So let's introduce our cast, because O'Neill has given us some incredible characters. First, and honestly one of my favorite literary characters in years, we have Mr. Mack.
Arthur Mack.
Yes, Arthur Mack. He runs the Adelaide General Stores.
Mr. Mack is, he's a tragicomic masterpiece. He's the absolute embodiment of anxiety.
He really is.
It's comical, yes. He makes these ridiculous mistakes with language.
Yeah.
But he's also deeply poignant. He's a man trying desperately to maintain his dignity in a world that keeps shifting under his feet.
Then we have his son, Jim Mack. He's the scholarship boy.
Quite impressionable.
Very much under his father's thumb. He's the kind of kid who walks into a room and just tries to make himself invisible.
And contrasting them perfectly, we have Doyler. Or Doyle.
The dumb man's lab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's working class, cynical, physically scarred from police batons, and politically radical. If Jim is the water still and deep tubing, Doyler is the fire. He's the spark that lights the fuse in this story.
We've got a lot to cover, so here's our roadmap for you listening. We're going to break this down into three main currents.
That's good.
First, we're going to look at the burden of the fathers, specifically Mr. Mack and his desperate clawing need for respectability. Second, we'll look at the movement, the political and religious tensions tearing the town apart.
And finally, the pact.
Yes, the pact, the friendship between Jim and Doyler, and the swim that changes everything.
It's a powerful structure. Let's start with the fathers, because in Irish literature, the shadow of the father is always long.
Okay, let's unpack Mr. Mack, because when you read the text, you find yourself laughing at him one minute and wanting to cry for him the next.
Oh, absolutely.
He is described as the archetype of the West Briton. Can we dive into that term for a second?
Absolutely. It's crucial to understanding him. A West Briton was a derogatory term used by Irish nationalists to describe an Irishman who was culturally anglicized.
Okay, so someone who looked to London as the capital, not Dublin?
Exactly. Someone who was loyal to the British crown, who mimicked British manners, and who perhaps felt that being Irish was something to be overcome, not celebrated.
And Mr. Mack embodies this perfectly. He's not just passive about it, he's actively proud of his connection to the empire. He spent 22 years in the British Army.
That service is the cornerstone of his identity. Without it, he's just a shopkeeper struggling to pay bills. With it in his own mind, at least he's a part of something grand. He's a man of the world.
There's this incredible scene early in the book where he's polishing his medals, specifically the Khedive's star.
Yes, the Egyptian campaign.
I want to talk about the feeling of this scene because it says so much. He's sitting there using a button stick so he doesn't get polish on the ribbon.
He's treating this object like a holy relic.
And he's telling Jim about it. But listen to what he says. He's talking about the campaign in Egypt, the Battle of Tel Kabir. But the tragedy isn't the war itself. The tragedy is what happened afterwards.
Right. He says, quote, "To march through Dublin as quartermaster sergeant, now that had been the cheese."
That had been the cheese. I love that phrase.
It's wonderful. But look at the sadness underneath. He came home before the regiment returned. He never got the parade.
He never got the cheering crowds.
He served for 22 years, gave his youth to the empire, and he came back to, well, silence. He's haunted by the fact that he's unrecognized.
It's like he's waiting for a round of applause that's 20 years late.
Exactly. And because he never got that external validation, he has to manufacture it constantly. He is obsessed with being on the up. He's terrified of sliding back down into the working class.
This anxiety manifests in the most mundane things. He worries about the shop constantly. He worries about the tick book.
The credit book where neighbors run up tabs.
Right. He's constantly doing this mental math of will they pay, won't they pay? But it's his behavior in public that really kills me. There's the scene with the Irish Times.
Oh, it's a classic. So the Irish Times was the paper of the Protestant ascendancy, the upper crust. It was expensive. Mr. Mack buys it, not really to read it, but to carry it.
He's walking on the street holding it so the title is visible. He's agonizing over the cost. It's twice the price of any other paper. But he justifies it by thinking a gent on the uplikes of yourself, isn't it worth it alone for the shocks and stares?
He wants to be seen as the quality. He thinks if he carries the right prop, people will mistake him for a gentleman. It's a performance. His whole life is a performance of a class he doesn't actually belong to.
And the performance extends to his language.
Yeah.
This is one of the funniest parts of the book, but also the most revealing. Mr. Mack loves big words,
He loves the sound of them.
but he rarely gets them right.
Malapropisms. But O'Neill uses them so specifically. It's not just that he uses the wrong word. He uses a word that sounds like the right word, but makes them sound pompous.
Like when he looks at the clouds, he calls them fair weather cumulus, which sounds okay, but then he corrects himself. Fair weather cumulus to give the correct designation on account they cumulate.
It's nonsense logic.
Oh.
Or when he tells Jim he's not cosmos mentis, he means compos mentis, of sound mind.
But Cosmos Mentis suggests a mind the size of the universe, which is definitely not Jim.
No, not at all.
My personal favorite is when he talks about the voila. He uses voila like it's a noun.
Yes, the voila of the thing.
It reveals his insecurity so nakedly. He's trying to sound educated, trying to separate himself from the common Dubliners. He thinks big words are a shield.
If I speak like a dictionary, they can't treat me like a shopkeeper.
But the tragedy is everyone sees through it. His wife, when she was alive, probably saw through it. Doyler certainly sees through it. He's a man wearing a costume that's 2 sizes too big.
Now, to really understand Mr. Mack, you have to look at his foil. The other father figure in the story. Mr. Doyle. Doyler's dad.
If Mr. Mack is the West Briton trying to be a gentleman, Mr. Doyle is the old tough.
He's what Mack is terrified of becoming. Doyle's also a former soldier, a fusilier. But where Mack is fastidious and anxious, Doyle is a ruin.
He's an alcoholic. He lives in squalor. There's a scene where they meet at the newspaper stand. It's so uncomfortable.
Mack is trying to be dignified with his Irish Times, and here comes Doyle, coughing up his lungs, smelling of drink.
And notice how Doyle manipulates Mack. He knows Mack's weakness. He calls him Sergeant in general. He plays on that shared history.
He says, "I fought for Queen and country. There's no man will deny it."
It's a trap.
It is. He's using the rhetoric of the empire to beg for a shilling. He knows Mack can't say no, because if Mack rejects Doyle, he's rejecting the brotherhood of the army. So Mack hands over the money seething.
But the real difference between them isn't just money or hygiene. It's violence.
Yes.
Mr. Mack is nagging. Mr. Doyle is dangerous. There's a scene that haunts me. Doyler is in the street. He's bought some brownhead cheese meat for his dinner, and he's stolen some tulips from a garden for his mother.
This is a crucial character moment for Doyler. He's a hard lad, but he's carrying flowers for his ma. It shows that tenderness he hides.
And then his father appears.
And the scene turns violent instantly. Mr. Doyle is drunk. He sees his son and decides to make a show of him. He's shouting to the crowd, "Do you know who it is?"
He wants an audience for his cruelty.
He approaches Doyler and physically knocks the food and the tulips out of his hands into the mud.
It's such a violation. It's not just a beating, it's a humiliation. He destroys the food which they need and the beauty, the flowers, just because he can.
And it establishes the world Doyler lives in. Jim lives in a world of, don't touch that and wipe your feet. Doyler lives in a world of duck or you'll get hit.
It explains why Doyler is so hard, so cynical. He has no illusions about authority because the primary authority figure in his life is a monster.
And Doyler calls his father a shaper.
A shaper, right? That's
Right.
Dublin slang.
Yes, for someone who poses someone who pretends to be something they aren't, Doyler sees his father talking about queen and country and old soldiers, but he knows the reality is just drunkenness and abuse.
So when Doyler hears the priest or the politicians talking about Mother Ireland or the Empire, he thinks you're all just shapers.
You're all just like my dad.
That is a brilliant connection. His domestic abuse informs his political radicalism.
Precisely.
Now we can't talk about the fathers without talking about the absent son, Gordy, Jim's older brother.
Gordy is the ghost in the machine. He's not in the scenes, but his presence is everywhere. He's off fighting in World War I. For Mr. Mack, Gordy is the golden child.
He's the proof that the Mack family is on the up.
Yes, Gordy is doing what Mack never did. He's fighting in France. He's a hero. Mack has beatified him in his mind. But there's a massive irony here. Gordy isn't the son Mack thinks he is.
Yeah.
Before the war, Gordy was hanging around with the volunteers, the Irish nationalists. He was dating a girl named Nancy who was a slavey, a maid.
Which horrifies Mr. Mack. A maid is common.
Exactly. Mack has mentally edited his son. He's cut out the nationalist parts, cut out the lower-class girlfriend, and created this statue of a British soldier.
But the reality is Gordy might have joined the army not for the king, but maybe just to get away from his father. Or for the money, or because he got caught up in the fervor.
And then there's Aunt Sonny. She's the grandmother figure living with them. She feels like she stepped out of a different century.
She represents the old rural superstitious Ireland. While Mac is worrying about credit books and newspapers, Aunt Sonny is listening to the wind in the chimney. She believes she hears Gordy in the night.
She has that chilling line to Mr. Mack. Ye hunted him away on me.
It cuts right to the bone.
She's naming the guilt that Mack is trying to suppress. She's saying he didn't go to war for glory. He went to war because you drove him out. It adds this layer of gothic tension to the house. The shop isn't just a shop. It's a house of ghosts.
I want to cap off this section on Mr. Mack with the blackguardism incident. To me, this is the moment where the book perfectly balances comedy and tragedy. It sums up Mr. Mack's entire existence.
It really does. So set the scene. The town is covered in recruitment posters. Kitchener needs you. When are the other boys coming?
And Mr. Mack is walking past one of these posters, and he notices it's peeling. The corner is flapping in the wind.
Now, a normal person walks past. A nationalist might rip it down, but Mr. Mack, he's offended by the untidiness of it. He thinks it's disrespectful to the crown. He thinks disgraceful, sloppy work wanner. I should fix this.
So he stops. He decides he's going to do his patriotic duty and stick the corner back down. He doesn't have glue, so he uses a bit of spit and tries to press it against the wall.
But physics is not on his side. The paper is old. The wall is damp. Instead of sticking it back up, his hand slips and he accidentally tears a huge strip off the poster.
And of course, Murphy's Law, who walks by at that exact second.
A constable. A policeman.
It's agonizing. The policeman sees a man tearing down a British Army recruitment poster. In 1915, that is a political act. That is sedition.
And Mr. Mack is standing there holding the torn paper, probably looking guilty as sin because he's anxious by nature. He tries to explain I was fixing it, I'm loyal. But the constable just takes his name.
And the next day it's in the paper.
The local paper. Not his beloved Irish Times. He is branded a blackguard. A piece of blackguardism in glass tool.
It destroys him.
It breaks him because it reveals the absurdity of his faith. He loves the empire, he polishes his medals, he knits socks for the troops, but the empire doesn't know who he is. To the mechanism of the state, he's just a vandal. The system he worships turns around and bites him.
It's the ultimate betrayal. He's punished for his loyalty because his loyalty looked like rebellion. It's so ironic.
It's Kafkaesque, and it shows how dangerous this world is becoming.
Yeah.
It can be ruined by a loose piece of paper.
So we've set the stage with the fathers. You have Mack, the anxious loyalist, and Doyle, the broken cynic. Now let's widen the lens. Let's talk about the town itself, because Glasspool in 1915 is a battlefield. This brings us to our second current, the movement.
This is absolutely critical context. If you don't understand the politics, you miss half the tension of the book. 1915 is a pivot point in Irish history. We are 1 year away from the Easter Rising, the armed rebellion against British rule.
But in the town, it's not shooting yet. It's a culture war.
Exactly. The old British-style authority is waning, and a new aggressive Irish nationalism is rising. And O'Neill personifies this shift brilliantly in two religious figures, Father Taylor and Brother Polycarp.
Let's meet Father Taylor, the new curate.
Father Taylor is the shock of the new. He is described as pockmarked, intense, burning with energy. And the most important thing about him, he speaks Irish.
Now, for a modern listener, that might just sound like a hobby. Oh, he speaks a second language. But in 1915, speaking Irish was a loaded gun.
It was a revolutionary act. The Gaelic League had been working for years to revive the language. Their argument was, we are not West Britons. We have our own tongue, our own culture. If you spoke Irish, you were signaling that you wanted an Irish Ireland separate from the empire.
Father Taylor doesn't just speak it, he weaponizes it. There's a scene where he's walking down the street and parishioners say, "Hello, Father," or "Good day, Father."
And he ignores them. He refuses to answer to English greetings. He forces them to say the Irish response, Dia agus Murzan Dawib, God and Mary be with you. He is retraining the town. He's de-anglicizing them one greeting at a time.
He gives a sermon that is just fire and brimstone, but political brimstone. He preaches against anglicization, against smutty postcards, against masher habits.
A masher was a dandy.
Yeah.
A guy who tried to look cool and modern. Father Taylor links English culture with immorality. To him, being a good Catholic and being a good Irishman are the same thing. He wants a pure Gaelic Catholic nation.
And standing in his way, or rather sitting in his room drinking whiskey, is Brother Polycarp.
Brother Polycarp is the old guard. He runs the school band. He's a Christian brother, but he's cynical. He's described as Anglified. He uses snuff. He likes his comfort.
He looks down on Father Taylor, doesn't he?
He despises him. He calls the Irish language stuff cabbage-looking. He thinks it's peasant stuff. Polycarp prefers classical music high culture, which to him means British or European culture.
And this conflict comes to a head over the band, the school band where our protagonist Jim Mack plays the flute.
Music is the proxy war. Father Taylor storms into band practice. He demands they play A Nation once again.
Which is a classic nationalist anthem. And Ireland, long of the province, be a nation once again.
Right, the musical Declaration of Independence. Polycarp, on the other hand, wants them to play God Save the King or classical marches.
And the boys are caught in the middle. They're just kids holding flutes and drums, and these two adult men are fighting for their souls through the sheet music.
It shows that there was no neutral ground. You couldn't just play a tune. Every note you played was a political statement.
And then floating above all this grubby conflict, we have Madame McMurrough.
Eveline.
Eveline McMurrough. She is a fantastic creation. She lives in the big house, Ballygen. She's wealthy, she's an aristocrat, but she's eccentric. She's the daughter of a famous politician, the McMurrough.
Yes, an old Irish chieftain line. She feels the weight of that name. She wants to be important. She sees this rising nationalism and thinks, I should be the queen of this.
But she's also incredibly vain. The book spends time describing her obsession with her emeralds, her appearance, her shins.
She's a lionizing hostess. She wants to be amused for the revolution. She teams up with Father Taylor, but their alliance is hilarious. He's this ascetic, pockmarked zealot, and she's this wealthy, fashion-obsessed dame.
They're using each other.
Completely. She needs his street cred with the people. He needs her money and her garden for his events. They organize the Glasshole Feis, a festival.
And again, the boys are just props. She looks at the band boys in their kilts and thinks they look picturesque.
Yeah.
She wants a pageant.
It highlights the artificiality of some of this nationalism. For Doyler, the revolution is about bread and not getting beaten by the police. For Madame McMurrough, it's about wearing emeralds and hosting a garden party.
This brings us to the sharpest political distinction in the book, the clash between nationalism and socialism. And to be clear to you listening, we are exploring how the text frames these movements, not endorsing either side.
This is where O'Neill's really smart. It's easy to think everyone who hated the British was on the same side. They weren't.
Doyler wears a badge on his coat, the Red Hand of Liberty.
That's the badge of the Irish Citizen Army. Now, listeners might know the Irish Volunteers. That was the main nationalist group. But the Citizen Army was different. It was socialist. It was founded by James Connolly and Jim Larkin after the lockout strikes of 1913.
We should explain the lockout briefly.
In 1913, the workers of Dublin went on strike for the right to unionize. The Dublin Metropolitan Police brutalized them. They batoned crowds. They broke into homes. It was class warfare. Doyler was there. That's where he got his limp, the hop in his step. A police baton shattered his leg.
So when Doyler looks at Father Taylor or the nationalists, he's skeptical.
He's more than skeptical. He's hostile. He argues that the nationalists just want to change the flag. They want to kick out the British king but keep the slums. Doyler says they'd have us blessing ourselves in Gaelic the day long.
And what worth is a blessing to a working man?
Exactly. He sees the church as just another oppressor. If you replace the British Empire with a Catholic Church, the working man is still on his knees. Doyler wants a workers' republic. He's the only one asking what happens to the poor in this new Ireland.
It's such a modern critique. He's calling out the hypocrisy of the middle-class revolution.
He is, and that badge he wears makes him a target. It's dangerous to be a socialist in a town run by priests and shopkeepers.
Which leads us perfectly into the third current, the personal danger. We've talked about the political battlefield, but now we have to talk about the psychological battlefield, the dangerous education of Jim Mack.
Jim is the prize everyone is fighting for. He's the grand exhibit. He's smart. He's quiet. He's malleable.
And Brother Polycarp has his claws in him.
This is the darkest part of the book. We have to be clear about what's happening here. Polycarp is grooming Jim.
It's incredibly uncomfortable to read. Polycarp convinces Jim he has a vocation, that God is calling him to be a monk.
But look at how he does it. He invites Jim to his private room. The atmosphere is thick sensory overload. The smell of snuff, the smell of whiskey, it's warm, it's intimate.
And the physical contact. He holds Jim's hand, he strokes his hair.
And he conflates that physical intimacy with spiritual holiness. He tells Jim, "Behold thy mother." He uses the memory of Jim's dead mother to bind the boy to him. He says essentially, "I am your path to your mother and to God."
Jim is 16. He's innocent. He's never been loved properly by his father. He's starving for affection.
Exactly. Jim confuses the feeling of being special with the feeling of religious calling. He feels a warmth in Polycarp's room, and he thinks this must be the Holy Spirit. But the reader knows, and O'Neill makes it very clear, that this is predation. It's a man using his power to exploit a vulnerable boy.
There's this constant talk of special friendships and solicitation. It's draped in religious language, but the subtext is screaming.
And Jim is trapped. He doesn't have the vocabulary to understand what's happening. He just knows he feels chosen.
Until Doyler walks in.
The hero moment.
Doyler barges into the room during one of these devotions, and he sees it instantly. He sees right through the incense and the Latin.
He has that line, "Old rook with a sparrow under his wing." He sees Polycarp as a predator bird.
And the confrontation that follows is electric. Polycarp is furious, but he doesn't attack Doyler for interrupting it. He attacks him for his politics.
He points at the red hand badge. He demands Doyler take it off. He says, "Remove that symbol of atheism."
And Doyler refuses.
He stands his ground. In a room where Jim is practically melting with submission, Doyler is a rock. He refuses to submit to the brother's authority.
And the result?
Polycarp bans him. He kicks him out of the band. He calls him a vulgarian and tells him his soul is damned.
But this is the turning point for Jim, isn't it? Because he sees his friend get expelled for the truth.
It plants the seed. Jim sees that authority isn't always right. And he sees that Doyler was willing to sacrifice his place in the band, which he loved, to keep his integrity. That's a lesson Jim has never learned at home.
This brings us to the heart of the deep dive and the heart of the book. The friendship. The pact.
Pal of my heart, Cara McCree.
Let's talk about the history of these two. They aren't new friends.
No, they were childhood friends. They were blood brothers. They cut their thumbs and mixed the blood when they were little kids, but then the class system tore them apart. Jim won a scholarship to the Presentation College, the posh school. Doyler went to work at 13.
So they live in different worlds. Jim is in Latin class. Doyler is shoveling dung.
And Doyler was sent away to Clare for a while. When he comes back, they are strangers. Jim is stiff, terrified of breaking rules. Doyler is wild, spitting, swearing.
But they find their way back to each other, and it starts with small things. The tulips.
The tulips are beautiful. Doyler steals them for his mother, as we mentioned, but before he takes them home, he shows them to Jim. He shares that moment of beauty. It's an invitation.
And the flute. The flute is the anchor of their relationship.
It is. Remember, Doyler's father would sell that flute for drink in a heartbeat. Doyler has to hide it. And Jim steps up.
Jim lies to his father. He hides Doyler's flute in the shop.
Think about what a big deal that is for Jim. Jim the good boy Mac. Jim don't upset Mac. He lies. He breaks the rules. He risks his father's wrath to protect his friend's instrument. It's his first act of defiance.
It's his first act of love, really.
Yes. He values Doyler more than he values the rules.
And when Doyle plays that flute, he does something distinct.
He plays God Save the King, the anthem Polycarp wants. But he syncopates it. He turns it into a jig. He speeds it up.
It sounds like rebellion.
It is creative rebellion. He takes the oppressor's song and makes it dance to an Irish rhythm. He's showing Jim that you don't have to accept the world as it is. You can remix it.
Which leads us to the ultimate remix of their lives, the swim, the 40-foot.
The 40-foot, it's legendary. It's a bathing place on the rocks, men only. No togs allowed naked swimming.
No, for Jim, this is terrifying. He's physically modest, he's ashamed of his body, and he's afraid of the water. He doesn't know how to swim.
The sea represents everything Jim fears. It's cold, it's chaotic, it's deep. It's the opposite of the shop. The shop is dry, dusty, controlled. The sea is wild.
Doyler takes him there, and he teaches him.
The scene of the swim is written so beautifully. You can feel the shock of the cold water. O'Neill describes the scrotal tighten, the breath being knocked out of you.
Doyler is fearless. He has that line, "Who's born to hang will never drown."
It's his fatalism again. But look at the tenderness. Doyler supports Jim in the water. He holds him up. He teaches him to breathe.
There's a metaphor there.
A huge one. Doyler is teaching Jim how to live, how to be in his body, how to survive in a cold world. When they're out there naked in the sea, the class difference disappears. The medals don't matter. The scholarship doesn't matter. It's just two human beings.
It's a baptism. Jim goes into the water a boy, and he comes out something else.
He comes out awake. He realizes he's alive.
And afterwards, they are drying off, looking at the stars, the plow.
The starry plow. Which, by the way, was the symbol of the citizen army. Even the stars are political.
Doyler shares his dream. He wants to go to an island in Clare. The Muglins, he wants to live there with Jim, just the two of them.
It's a utopian dream, a place with no priests, no fathers, no British army. At swim, two boys. It's the promise of a life where they can just be.
And in this moment, under the stars, Jim has his epiphany. He thinks about vocation.
This is the aha moment of part one. He's been tortured by this idea of vocation that God is calling him. But looking at Doyler, he rewrites the definition.
I have the quote here. He thinks it may so be a vocation is like a friend you might make. A friend would come to you, and you don't turn him out.
That is profound. He realizes that vocation isn't a command from above. It's a connection here on earth. His vocation isn't the church. His vocation is Doyler.
He chooses the friend over the institution.
That is a revolutionary thought for a Catholic boy in 1915. He is effectively saying, my loyalty is to love, not to law.
So we've tracked the fathers, the politics, and the friendship. Now as we move toward the end of part one, these currents crash into each other.
The pacing accelerates here. It feels like a train picking up speed.
Mr. Mack is spiraling. The police have visited him about the poster. He's terrified he's going to be arrested. Aunt Sonia is screaming at him about Gordy.
The pressure cooker is whistling. Mr. Mack breaks down. There's that scene where he's sweeping the floor. He's sweeping the dust out into the street in a rage. He's shouting if a job's worth doing.
He's trying to regain control by cleaning, but he can't sweep away the war or the police. He almost hits Jim.
He raises the brush. He's about to strike his son. He's becoming Mr. Doyle. The stress is turning him into the thing he hates.
But Jim doesn't cower this time.
No. The swim has changed him. When his father threatens him, Jim doesn't flinch. He calmly walks past him. He goes to get his flute.
He asserts his independence. He basically tells his father, I am going to ban practice. I am going to live my life.
It's a quiet rebellion, but it's seismic. The power dynamic in the house shifts. Jim is no longer the child. He's becoming a man.
And everything is converging on this glass tool fight, the garden party.
It's the set piece where all the characters will collide. Madame McMurrow wants her pageant. Father Taylor wants his rally. Mr. Mack wants to be seen there to prove he's still respectable.
And the boys?
The boys are just trying to survive it. They're being pulled in every direction. The church wants Jim. The army wants recruits. The socialists want Doyler.
They are pawns in a game being played by crazy adults.
Exactly. And the stakes couldn't be higher because of what is happening in the background.
The news. The stop press.
Throughout this section, there are little snippets of newsboys shouting. And finally, we get the headline. The Lusitania.
The ocean liner sunk by a German U-boat. Hundreds dead.
This was the 9/11 of the time. It changed everything. It turned the war from a distant thing into a monstrous reality. It meant the war was right off the coast of Ireland.
It's the ticking clock. The boys are planning their future dreaming of islands, but history is coming for them.
The stilly night of Dublin is about to be broken.
So when we step back and look at part one of At Swim Two Boys, what are we really seeing?
We are seeing a portrait of innocence under siege. We are seeing how hard it is to be an individual when the world demands you be a soldier or a saint or a subject.
It's a race, isn't it?
It is. Will the boys find their own path represented by the sea that swim the island? Or will they be crushed by the machinery? The machinery of the church, the empire, and even the revolution.
It forces us to ask a question. In a world that is screaming at you to choose a side king or a country red hand or harp English or Irish, is it possible to just choose a person?
Can you build a nation of two? That's the question O'Neill is asking. Is love a strong enough shelter against history?
It's a beautiful, terrifying question.
It is. And as we leave part one, we leave Jim and Doyler on the precipice. They have found each other, but the storm is making landfall.
And, building on that mention of the Lusitania and the way history just barges into personal lives, it makes you wonder about our own time. We live in an era of hyperpolarization where you're constantly pressured to publicly declare your allegiance to massive political or social factions.
Absolutely.
It leaves you wondering if choosing the micro-loyalty of a single deep friendship over the macro-loyalty of a movement is actually the most radical political act you can commit today. Something for you to mull over.
That is a phenomenal thought to end on.
Thank you for walking us through the history and the heartbreak today.
My pleasure. It's a book that stays with you.
And to you listening, think about that idea of vocation. Is it what the world tells you to be? Or is it who you choose to stand beside when the tide comes in? Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.